So please welcome Scott Tejerian to the show. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you, Ashley. It's great to be here.
All the way from Long Beach, California. And, Delisa Hawking introduced us, and I haven't interviewed her yet.
Oh,
And that's like in 2 weeks. But, it's like picking up the breadcrumbs on how I'm connecting with people lately and how my high school friends connected with Delisa. I grew up in Seattle, and then they're telling me I should interview her. And I said, okay. And then I find her, and then she connects me with you. And I'm like, okay, there's a reason we're all supposed to be connecting. And
yes.
I'd never doubt the process of this divine, all these connections. And then
Mhm.
I missed my interview with you on Friday. So there's another like, okay, Ashley, what is going on? Because I've never done that. So, okay, first time, but maybe at the time I'm like, there's a reason. And then all of this energy feeling that I've been feeling this past week, even this past like 6 months to a year, this whole year has been like this crazy energy.
Mm.
And it's been building and building and building. And I think last week was kind of like, it hit me so hard that I was like, oh my gosh, but now I get to interview you and you get to explain all of that to everyone because I
Oh,
know I'm not the only one.
mm.
But I want you to, because it's interesting learning, and congratulations on your twins
Oh,
and
thank you.
babies and that are going to be coming. When are they due?
Early November, end of October. Yeah,
Okay. So you're getting ready to be a dad.
yeah.
And the whole process of that, when you found out it was a boy, and then all of a sudden you go to the next appointment and you were wanting a girl and you're trying to process. I love that whole story because I have two girls, and it just put me back into those moments of when we find out and getting pregnant, and then how you figured out how to conceive at the right time with the moon and all the astrology. So I was like, you put that into the mix. But now that you get a boy and a girl, it's so exciting. I'm just amazed. It's just amazing. What a gift. What
Yeah,
a
it
gift.
feels magical. It feels
Oh,
magical.
totally. It
Totally
is magical.
feel
It's a
so blessed.
miracle.
It's a miracle. I feel so blessed. So
Yes.
fortunate. Yes.
So astrology. So, I grew up, I'm 56 and read the newspaper and always did my horoscopes, and then as far as like learning astrology, I've never I feel like it's always been over my head,
Mm.
and I don't know why. Maybe it was it was hard for me to comprehend it, so I never really dove deep into it. And now, like learning from you and listening to all your podcasts on the weekly transit, trying to get my head right for this interview, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, wow. I mean, you're so in depth, but you explain it to a person like me. And I think that's what I wanted to get across to everyone because sometimes it's way beyond comprehension for me. But it's so important to understand because it is part of who we are.
Yes.
But let's go to where, because you didn't start off an astrologer, and it's
No.
so cool to think like, you know, this guy like in this world discovers that he really wants to study astrology and help people really uncover their magic with astrology.
Mm.
So let's go to kind of how you were, what led you to um, this astrology expert.
Wow. Okay. So, well, I want to thank you for what you said just there, because astrology is very complex, but it doesn't need to be complicated.
Hmm.
And it's my objective to help everyone who reaches out to me, connects to me, whether it's through a reading or a class or the podcast. It's my objective to help each individual understand this language because this language is not just meant for few, it's meant for everyone. And so, I first, like, my first memory of even knowing astrology didn't come until I was in college. And I was at UCSB and I was out at the bar on a Tuesday night and I was hitting on a girl. And she asked me, she's like, "What's your sign?" And I said, "My sign?" And she's like, yes, what's your sign? I'm like, does it look like I'm carrying a sign? What are you talking about? And she's like, when's your birthday? And I said, November 13th. And she's like, oh God, Scorpio, and ran away. And that stuck with me. I was like, okay, so I'm a Scorpio. That's bad. Uh, and so I that's the first memory I have of even understanding what astrology, that it was a thing. And then just kind of learning through the horoscopes and thinking, oh, this isn't real. This is BS. It's like reading. I could read different horoscopes, and I could maybe find a little bit about myself in all the different horoscopes. So I didn't really uh, pay too much attention to it until it was about 10 years after that. I was in my second relationship with a Leo, and it was very painful. It was like the highs of the highs and the lows of the lows. And this woman that I was with was physically looked very different from the previous girlfriend that I had, but energetically it was so similar. And I started to think that there was something wrong with me. Like, this is crazy. Like, how am I with this same type of person again? Maybe it has something to do with the astrology. And I had a friend who was super into astrology at the time, and she told me, she's like, yeah, well, Leo and Scorpio, that's a tough match. And so that kind of stuck with me. And so I started to pay more attention at that point. Then it was about 10 years after that, I'd wanted to be a screenwriter. I moved to LA right after UCSB to be an actor and a screenwriter, and had just kind of toiled around working in restaurants for 20 years and almost getting an agent as a writer and that kind of stuff, but never pushing through. And I was deeply frustrated, and I was working on this historical piece, and I had like exhausted all the information that was written about these people who had actually lived that was in this book. And I was like, I feel like I know who these people are to a degree. It was about these boxers. And I was like, I know who they are as fighters, but I want to know who they are as men. And I had their birth dates. And for some reason, I was like, well, maybe if I looked at where the planets were when they were born, that would give me more insight. And so I started to look that up. I looked up their birth dates, and I didn't have the time, but I had a general idea of where the planets were. And I started looking up online what different meanings were for this planet and that sign, and so on and so forth. And everything that I found was like eerily on point to the people that I had been researching. And that's what really kind of stopped me in my tracks, because I was like, well, wait a second, maybe there's something to this. Maybe there actually is something to this astrology thing. At that point, I said, well, I know my sun, my moon, my rising sign. I know what signs they're in, but I don't know what that means. And I don't know where any of these other planets are and what that means. And so I started looking at my own chart and uncovering the meaning of what it meant for this planet to be in this sign, and so on and so forth, as it relates to me. And everything that I looked up, I was stunned, because what I found was not just me, but the me that only I know, like the dark parts of myself that I'm not going to admit this to anyone, but I feel it
Right.
inside of me. And that was coming to light. And at that moment, I started looking up every single person who had ever won an Academy Award, because I was like, I want to be an actor. I want to win an Academy Award. And I started looking all these people up. And what I found was like their primal triad, their sun, moon, and rising sign, like so different from my own.
Hmm.
And I started, because I was really blaming myself. I was like, if only you worked harder, if you didn't party so much, if you didn't do this, that, or the next thing, then you would have been successful. You're a failure in life. You're single. You're living in a one-bedroom apartment by yourself, and you're a loser. Just all these negative self-talk. But then I started to just uncover that no, like my life is exactly how it's meant to be, and there's nothing wrong with I I haven't done anything wrong. Like, I started really loving and appreciating myself more, and really healing myself. And at that point I was like, okay, I'm done trying to be a screenwriter. I'm an astrologer now. And I'm focusing all of my time and energy now on looking up every single astrological code of every single person I can think of, whether it's my family, my friends, my acquaintances, or public figures. I'm going to get all this information. And every time I got a new code, it would like more light bulbs would go off in my mind. I would learn something new and it would all make sense. And it felt like I was uncovering the greatest puzzle that could I could ever imagine. I was figuring out life on earth and all the people in my life and understanding why I have conflict with this person or challenges with that person or why this person and I vibe with them more than someone else. It just all started to come together. And after about probably 6 months of just doing all this research, spending all this time. Because I was, it changed my whole attitude about waiting tables too. I was like, I'm so lucky. I have a job where I only work like 20 hours a week and it pays all my bills, as opposed to I hate my life, I hate my job. Because the time that I wasn't working in the restaurant, I was just researching. And then I'd go into the restaurant and I was researching there too, because I had the astrological code of every single person in the restaurant that I was working with. And it was like a case study.
Huh.
And then I started doing readings for people and that was it.
When you say codes, will you explain that?
Yeah, I think, people call it your natal chart, but I look at us as like I it's hard to really explain what Earth is. I don't think anybody really knows, though people try to explain it. But from my perspective, like this right here, when I look at you, Ashley, what I see is the physical manifestation of your soul, and that soul has a code, and that code was embedded at the moment you took your first breath when you were born. The same energetic forces that move the oceans. It's like we know that the sun and the moon move the oceans. The oceans weigh 1.5 quadrillion short tons. Each short ton is 2,000 pounds. So if the sun and the moon can move the oceans, what were they doing to little Ashley when she was just a few pounds and over
Mhm.
70% water? When you took your first breath, what they were doing is they left an imprint upon you that shaped you from body to soul. And that's your code.
Yeah. And my code is my like the explain the code then.
So it's like your code is you're a ninth house Sagittarius sun with a seventh house Libra moon and a Pisces rising. I mean, that's just a little part,
Okay.
and so that all has meaning. Those words that I just said have meaning. A seventh house Libra moon has meaning. A ninth house Sagittarius sun has meaning. A Pisces rising has meaning. And that's just scratching the surface. That's just the most basic part of your astrological code.
When you explain really where astrology came from and you go in these podcasts that I've been listening to, you're back in like 1684 and you're talking about the popes, the first pope and the Catholic Church. Will you kind of give a little background of, I mean, I know that it's like I wrote down like three symbols, 11 planetary, 12 signs, and 12 houses, like how it kind of breaks down, like how, and kind of where you started, because you go way so deep in the history.
Well, so okay, I mean, I love history. I'm not like an expert at history, but I'm fascinated by history. I've always been interested in history. So I'm always curious to understand where were the planets, like when was the last time Neptune was in Aries where it is right now, and is there some similarities that we can draw to that time period to now, or the previous time period to the last time period, or the time period before that? It's like you go back through time and you start to look at it. There are some similarities here. Like just the easiest one to do is like Pluto is in Aquarius. And the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was 1777 to or 1778 to 1797, which was during the American and French revolutions. And that's Pluto is the god of death, and Aquarius is the community, it's society, it's humanity or mankind. And there is, because Aquarius is ruled, like when you're thinking of the signs, you want to ask your I try to make it simple. You want to ask yourself four questions. If you know the answer to these four questions, then it gives you a clear understanding of the nature of the sign. So Aquarius, what are the four questions? The four questions are: what is the element, what is the modality, what is the planetary ruler or rulers, and what is the symbol. So Aquarius is an air sign. Air is more extroverted than introverted because air is something that can touch you, but it's not something that you can touch. Air can be a cool breeze on a hot summer day, or it can be a hurricane. It's all how you're working with the energy. So nothing's good or bad about any of it. It's about understanding the energy and then working with the energy in the highest frequency that you can. The modality, the second question, the modality is determined by the time of the season the sun's transiting through a sign. So when the sun is transiting through a fixed sign, as it is with Aquarius, because so Aquarius, the modality is fixed, that's the middle of the season. It's the middle of winter. So the fixed signs are the stabilizer signs. They're stabilizing the energies of the season. They're very loyal, but can also be somewhat stubborn. It's all how you're working with the energy. The planetary rulers of Aquarius are Saturn and Uranus. So there's two. Saturn is the god of wealth and time, the planet of restriction, responsibility, hard work, achievement, and authority. Uranus is the primordial sky god. It's the planet of revolution, rebellion, innovation, independence, and the unexpected. So that brings up a question. How can the planet of restriction, Saturn, and the planet of rebellion, Uranus, rule the same sign? And the answer to that question is the symbol, the water bear, which is the symbol for Aquarius, which brings up another question. Wait, the water bear. You hear a lot of Aquarius people that are Aquariuses that don't really know astrology. They'll say, well, I'm a water sign because I'm the water bear. And it's like, no, that's an air sign. And the reason is because the water bear breathes air. The other
Hmm.
the other air signs, the twins, they breathe air. They need air to live, and the scales of Libra, they need air in order to operate. Whereas the water signs, the crab, even the scorpion, and the fish all live or can live in water. So that takes us back to the first question. How can the planet of rebellion and the planet of restriction, Uranus and Saturn, rule the same sign? And the answer is the water bear. The water bear was that individual that lived a long time ago in a village so primitive that everyone in the village went down to the stream each and every day to drink and bathe like an animal. Until one night, sitting around the campfire, the water bear said, I have an idea. I'm going to figure out how to bring water from the stream to the village. And all the villagers kind of looked at each other and then started laughing because the water bear sounded crazy. That's that Uranus rebellion, thinking outside the box, thinking differently than everyone else, where the water bear was undeterred by the villagers making fun of them, and they took that Saturnian energy and went to work to do the work required to bring their crazy idea into reality. And many moons later, showed up in the village with a jug full of water. And all the villagers who called the water bear crazy were now saying, she's a genius. So Uranus or Aquarius is about invention, but the water bear invented the jug not for themselves, but for the village. So it has to do with the community. So when Pluto, the god of death, transits through Aquarius, there's going to be a death and a rebirth of how society is. And when you look back to the last time with the American and French revolutions, and there were plenty of other rebellions and revolutions that were occurring during that time period, but those are the two most obvious. It changed two countries completely, and
Right.
we're we're at the precipice of going through that again right now.
Right.
You can kind
When
of see that.
when at the beginning, like when I started this podcast, I remember people talking about the age of Aquarius, and this was in 2020, and kind of the early stages.
Yeah.
And that song, and the
Yeah.
60s and all that. But when you, as an expert in this, before when you were looking ahead, when you were looking future astrology and knowing that that was coming, were
Mhm.
you looking and seeing, oh wow, we're going to have this huge, like, were you preparing your mind for that?
Yes, 100%. Like I had my big awakening was back in 2016. And at that point I saw that Pluto was moving into Aquarius in the early 2020s, and it was going to be there for 20 years. Pluto's now in Aquarius until the 2040s. And I was like, "Oh my God, by the time we get to the 2040s, I felt like astrology is going to be mainstream, because astrology is ruled by Aquarius, but even more so than that, I was like, there's going to be technological advancements that are going to be like going from the light bulb to the iPhone. And when you look at the technological advancements that are occurring right now, just in the precipice of Aquarius, I was like, it's mind blowing. Self driving cars and AI and all this sort of stuff is really wild compared to like in 2016, people weren't really, the general population wasn't thinking about self driving cars and artificial intelligence. But I was like, yeah, by 2040s, it's going to be crazy technological advancements. Society is going to be totally different, like radically different from what, because you can look at any 20-year period and say, like, well, look, society's changed over the last 20 years, but not like this. In
Right.
the 2040s, we're going to look back at like the 20 teens and be like, wow, that was like the Stone Age. That's
Right.
so like so old and like
It still feels like,
yeah.
doesn't it seem like that too now, even just 10 years
Last
past,
year, yeah,
that,
10 years, yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Because the way that we're operating right now with technology and the way society is changing just radically. It's yeah. So we have to all figure out how we are going to join the revolution in our own way, because Aquarius is about individuality. It's not about following a group per se. It's about how are you going to stand out in your own unique way that's going to benefit society or the group. It's about
right.
being an individual.
Okay. Where I'm going now is you having two children in the next month,
Yeah.
bringing children into this world.
Yes. Yes.
And I think I brought my children into this world in 2006 and 2008.
Hmm.
And during that time, barely cell phone, right? Like with Paige's birth in 2006, I didn't have an iPhone to take pictures. And she always wonders, like, how come Presley has pictures on your phone when she was a baby, but I don't. We went to Target and got pictures,
Yeah.
or it's
Yeah.
from my phone, it's on Shutterfly. But it's just to think that, like, from that point to now, I
Yeah.
mean, that's a crazy, but for all the people that I've interviewed, they, talking about this crystalline, these children coming in, completely different energy, their vibrations completely different. The energy on the earth is so different.
Mm.
Thinking of how you would even describe this little baby, us being born, and the code that comes in, and you're going to have two of these babies.
Yes. Yes.
Explain what is your process in your mind in the last 9 months gone to in raising children in starting now, like at this stage of the game in our life.
Totally. I mean, I've always wanted to have kids. when I was in my teens, I figured by the time I was 25, I would have, at least two or three kids, or at least one. I'd be married, I have a kid. By the time I was in my 30s, I'd have five kids. That's literally what I thought when I was a teenager. And now I'm gonna be 50 next month or in November, and I'm having my first two children, and I just got
I love
married.
it.
So, it just shows how we don't know what's going to happen in life, and you just have to be open to the experiences that you're given, and you have to be grateful for every moment that you're given. And so, when my wife, when she told me, because when we got together, I told her this was 6, 7 years ago. We got together, and I said I would love to have children, and but it's not a deal breaker for me. Like more than anything, I want to be in a relationship with somebody who loves me, and who I love, and that's the most important thing to me. And so, in the early part of our relationship, she was going back to school. She was getting her master's in marriage and family therapy, and then the last couple of years has been working on getting her hours to get her license. And so uh, she that's been the focus, and that was it. And then her grandmother died earlier in the year, and she went back to where her grandmother lived, and had this really kind of spiritual, emotional experience. And she called me and said, I want to have a family. I'm ready to start
Oh,
a family. And then she reiterated that when she came home. And I was like, okay, let's look at the planets and see when, and
right.
it's like, who knows what's gonna, like, if anything, like, it's just taught me that, like, you can't control everything or even anything at all. You can't control anything, because I wasn't planning for twins, but I'm so grateful for it. So, but I looked ahead at where the planets were going to be. I was like, yeah, 9 months looks pretty good for us generally. So yeah, let's give it a try and let's see what happens. And sure enough, a month later, she was pregnant, and that's that. And so I'm just I just think about these kids coming in now, born with Pluto and Aquarius. This is the generation, people, kids that are born from now over the next 20 years. They're the future, in terms of, like, they're going to advance our society into a future that other generations wouldn't be able to do so, because they're going to be uh, a very logical generation. They're not going to care about their own self-aggrandizement. It's like when you look at the flip side. So the sign that's opposite Aquarius is Leo, and we have a very clear case study of what, like, the Leo generation has brought us. They're the people that were born between 1937 and 1957. Like, during that period, that's when Elvis and Marilyn Monroe became celebrities. They're the biggest celebrities that have ever been, in terms of pop culture. There's no one bigger than Elvis or Marilyn. Like, you just say their one name, everybody knows who they are. Uh, but that ushered in this period of celebrity, where the people that were born between 37 and 57, those became like the children of Elvis and Marilyn. They became like the generation of celebrities, and and but that's the king, right? Leo's the king. It's the king of the jungle. It's ruled by the sun. It's like all the attention's on me. So that generation in the 1960s was coming of age in their 20s, and they took to the streets. They made a very grand gesture of, like, we don't like the way things are here, and we're going to take it back. It was literally like the king saying that this is how things are going to be now. I'm taking over the throne. And when you look at the people that have been president, Bill Clinton, George Bush II, uh, and Donald Trump, and Joe Biden, all four of those guys were born with Pluto and Leo. And I remember when I was a kid growing up, and, like, Ronald Reagan was the president, and everyone's like, he's so old. He's the
Right.
oldest president. Is he too old to be president? Well, Donald Trump and Joe Biden, like, they long passed how old Ronald Reagan was. That's how much the Leo generation is clinging to the throne.
Huh.
This generation of Aquarius, like, they're not going to care about celebrity. They're not going to care about having the attention or the control. They're going to be more about, how can we work together to to create a better society. The flip side of that is, like, the other side of the coin with Aquarius is, if you don't look like me, if you don't talk like me, if you don't walk like me, then there's something wrong with you. It's like where the group is peer pressure. Like, peer pressure may be, like, to an extreme during this period, where if you don't fit in, then you may feel like there's something wrong with you, and you may subjugate yourself to your own detriment to fit in with the group. So that's one thing that I'm going to be teaching my kids is like how to maintain their individuality. That they don't have to follow anyone else. That it's important for them to recognize how they're contributing to the greater context of society, and that they need to be doing so in a meaningful way. But at the same time, society also needs to be giving back to them.
Right. You know, the everything that's going on really when 2020 hit COVID and it's everything starts to, you know, the layers or the onion have been peeling and peeling and peeling from since then, right? So people are waking up. And when you say that about Leo, you know, it's so fascinating about that. Learning when you were born, that was the with those presidents, right? But the fall of the government, the education system, everything, the healthcare. I was listening to you talk to Delisa about the healthcare system. Like if people stop paying, you know, then it's going to go away. But explain to me that part. Like when you start to see things just, I mean, I have a child in college, second year, and it's just, I hate to say it, but it's a joke.
Mm.
Watching what she's learning, not, no, there's nothing, there's no rhyme or reason. It's the same stuff they've taught for many, 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 many years. And it's not relative anymore. There's no, she doesn't get why she has to learn these things. She's like, Mom, this is just ridiculous.
Mm.
So you know, so where I'm at now, and even with my little, with Presley in 11th grade in high school, same thing. She's like, Mom, this is so, school does not even make sense to me. You know,
Mm.
and they're getting to that place where I think this generation of children that I'm around, that I've been around for the last 20 years, you know, it's happened at the beginning, you know, I'm waking up. You know, it took me a little bit because I was into, you know, having these little babies. And then you start to see the peeling of this onion, and now they're experience it, but it's in their, is it in their code? Like,
So
explain how that works.
when were your daughters born? What years were they born?
2006 and 2008,
So your oldest one, who was born in '06, she was born with Pluto in Sagittarius. Now '08, when was your child born in '08? What year? What?
December 5th.
December 5th. So I'm almost, let me just double check here. So December 5th, 2008. That was, okay. So your youngest, she's of the first generation of Pluto in Capricorn. All right, so the oldest is Pluto in Sagittarius. So everyone who was born between around 1995 and '08 was born with Pluto in Sagittarius. That's mutable fire. So that's the Archer. It's Katniss Everdeen, Robin Hood, freedom-loving individuals. This is your sun sign. You know, the freedom-loving individuals that don't want anyone to tell them where to go, how to think, what to do, what to say. They know the difference between right or wrong, and they want the freedom to explore far and wide so they can expand their minds, deepen their philosophical view, and speak their truth. So it's also higher education. So your oldest daughter is in college, and she has a very clear sense of what she believes is right and what is wrong, and what is a higher frequency and what's a lower frequency, and it is not resonating with what they're teaching her in school. And so that whole generation is going to be incredibly rebellious. Like when you think of, so you got to go back to like the American Revolution and the French Revolution. It's like, who were the people that were fighting in that revolution? You know, the people that were actually fighting in the revolution were in their 20s. And so they were born with Pluto in Sagittarius. Live
Huh.
free or die. Live free or die. Like that was like the battle cry for the American Revolution. That's like the battle cry of Sagittarius, is that I would rather burn everything down and start over than live in these shackles that they feel that they're living under. Whereas your youngest daughter, Pluto in Capricorn, that's the generation that was born between '08 and 2023. That generation is about rebuilding. And so your oldest, her generation, they go through many deaths and rebirths in terms of their life's philosophy and their philosophical view of the world. Your youngest, her generation goes through many deaths and rebirths in terms of their relationship to authority. And so, like, they are really going to question authority, and they're here to transform. They're here to transform what authority means. And so going to school and hearing the lessons, it's like, no, this doesn't work for me. And so they're gonna rebuild what does work for them.
What do you see then? Like as far as, is it just going to be this? I mean, I think of what we've been going through in this last week, and we're recording this on September 15th, 2025, just to make it clear. And listening to your episode of the where we're at just from this last week was like, whoa, no wonder I feel the way I do.
Yeah.
Explain, is it going to keep building? Are we like all these things, like, now that we've had this powerful week last week and I was going through so much, and I know everyone else was, I mean, that I spoke to, not generally. Are we going to be building, 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 things falling down quick, being done? Like, are we going to see the education system, for an example, or the government, all those things? Like, is it going to take a long time? Are we going to get to 2040 and it's going to be a completely different world and we're going to be living in little compound, you know, growing our own food? Like, where do you see that?
I think that we're going to continue to be shocked over the next 20 years. And to the point where it's like nothing's going to shock us. It's like we're going to be shocked in terms of like 1990s Scott would be shocked, but 2020s Scott is not shocked. Uh,
Right.
because Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and Uranus is the planet of the unexpected. So we have to expect the unexpected. Like the craziest things that I back in 2020, I told people, I said, by the time we get to 2030, we're going to look back at 2020 and laugh.
Mm.
It's going to be like, oh yeah, COVID. Remember that? Yeah, man, that was funny. That was nothing compared to what we've seen now.
Oh, wow.
The last 10 years,
Right.
like that ushered us in, and it was shocking. But the things that we've seen since COVID have also been shocking and horrifying, and it's going to continue. We're only halfway through the decade. We still got another 5 years, and where these planets are moving over the next 5 years is going to create more shock, more. And the shock is not meant to be bad. It's meant to wake us up. So the way that we navigate through this is by following the frequencies of the planets are, that when I say like your code, like I think about it in terms of like your phone. You have apps on your phone, and every now and then the app wants to update itself, or maybe it's your whole operating system on your phone wants to update itself because it needs to in order to continue moving forward. Otherwise it's going to be outdated and it's not going to work. You are the same way. You need to continue to work because these planets that are transiting around us 24/7, 365 days of the year, they are tapping into the code that they left behind in us. And if we're clinging to the way things always used to be, then we're not allowing the system outside of us to update our code, and we are going to become obsolete. So as individuals, we have to continue to evolve. And this is why the work that I'm doing, I find it to be important, because I'm trying to help people recognize what these frequencies are, which when I talk about them, like you listen to the podcast and you're like, oh my God, like everything you're saying, like I don't understand it, but like what you were saying makes sense. I don't understand the astrology part, but the other part, like, it makes sense energetically what's going on in my life. That's the point, is to help you recognize, like, I shouldn't be saying anything that you're not already feeling, but I'm
Right.
validating what you're feeling, and I'm hopefully giving you some questions to answer within yourself that are going to help support you along this path.
Right. So let's go to the week we just had and what, like when you explain it with the eclipse and the moon and all the things and what you, like when you started it, it was, I think you recorded it, it was like 5 days ago. So today's Monday. So the beginning of last week when you recorded this. So the beginning of September.
Yeah.
Explain what we were going, why I said everyone's in this place of like, what the heck?
So there's,
What is going on here? What is happening? I wake
yes,
up in the middle of the night and lay there and think, that's what's going through my mind. And and I get these confirmations from all my friends too. I wake up at this time and I lay there and I'm like, me too.
yes,
Explain to this, Scott.
yes, yes. So, this year, 2025, is a nine. 5 plus 2 plus 0 plus 2 is a 9. This year represents an ending. So we have to be able to release different parts of ourselves that are not going to, that are not, you're not able to carry into the next year. And because next year is a 1, and that begins a cycle for the next 9 years. But astrologically, this last week, intense because of all the planets transiting through Virgo. Virgo is the sign. If I mentioned how there's 4 questions that you need to ask yourself in order to understand the nature of the sign. There's a fifth bonus question, which what's the body part? And the body part that is ruled by Virgo is the intestines. And the intestines are that part of the body that's eliminating what's ever in the body that is no longer serving the body. And it's symbolized by the Virgin. The Virgin represents perfection. It's mutable earth. So mutable is adaptable, changeable, go with the flow. It occurs at the end of the season. We're at the end of summer right now. But earth is structure. It's introverted. It's something where you are initiating the touch more so than it is initiating the touch with you. So Virgo is about taking like a malleable piece of clay and reshaping it and shaving off pieces or parts of it that you don't need anymore. It's ruled by Mercury, which is the planet of the mind. So when you find yourself awake in the middle of the night, it's that hamster wheel. You can talk to anyone who was born with Mercury in Virgo or the sun in Virgo. They all talk about that hamster wheel where it's like their mind is always working. Virgo moon people, the mind is always going, always thinking. Because and the gift of that is they see things that other people miss.
Right.
Such a great eye for detail, but they can become overly analytical, analysis paralysis. They can be very critical of themselves and critical of others. And so, with these planets, with this last week, there was the Sun and Mercury were at the same degree, which is a cazimi, where Mercury
Oh, yeah.
in the heart of the Sun. And so that really forces and focuses our attention to all the mundane details of our life, and is urging us to restructure. What is it, a part of your daily life that you could eliminate, that's maybe a waste of your energy and time? Is there anything within your physical environment that you're not using? Why is it there? Maybe you get rid of it, and that will help clear your mind. What are you putting into your mind? How is it affecting your body? What are you putting into your body? How is it affecting your mind? These are the questions that are coming up with this Virgo energy, but even more specifically, Mercury conjunct, or the Mercury Cazimi in Virgo, Mercury conjunct the Sun. So it's making our minds race and really analyze how we're living our lives so that we can reorganize our lives and create a get greater efficiency within our lives so that we can be of service to the people around us, because that's what ultimately Virgo is about. It's about service to others.
I was born in 68. What was I born in? under?
So you're of the Virgo generation. You're
Okay.
so everyone who was born between 1957 and 1973 was born with 72, 73 was born with Pluto and Virgo. So your generation came to Earth and were like, okay, like it's not perfect, but we can work with this. We can work with this. We just need to make some small adjustments here, there, or, these different places. Doesn't need to be some grand sweeping thing, but just like little adjustments to what's already here. And we're gonna make the world a better place by making these little adjustments.
Hmm. Can you look at mine? Because I gave you my birth date
I've got
yesterday, and I just kind of, I think I want people to understand when you get their birth date and time and where they were born,
yes.
um, their code and their purpose and how what kind of a general of what your magic.
Yes. Yes. So when you're looking at an astrological code, it's a wheel. It's like there's 12 slices. Like just think of like a pie with 12 slices, and there's one line that goes right through the center. And that is the horizon line. So everything in the top half of the circle or the pie is what was in the sky when you were born. Everything on the bottom half was on the other side of the earth. So you were born at 12:13 p.m., which is the middle of the day. So the sun was up high when you were born, Ashley. And literally, if you were born at 12, if you were born like 5 minutes earlier, the sun would have been in the 10th house instead of the ninth house. And that changes things dramatically. But um, So you look at this and you say, where are the planets? What signs are they in? What do the planets mean? What do the signs mean? What houses are they in? What does that mean? Those are the questions you want to ask yourself. So understand the planet. So like when you look at the sun, it's a circle with a smaller circle inside a bigger circle. And that signifies your eternal soul, no beginning, no end, and the eternal divine light that shines within you. The sun is the giver of light, life, and vitality. Wherever the sun goes, it brings light, life, and vitality. It's the battery that is powering your human ship. So it's how you identify. So being born with the sun in Sagittarius, that's the filter for the planet. Sagittarius is mutable because when the sun is in Sagittarius, it's the end of fall. It's fire. Fire is extroverted because fire is something that can touch you, but it's not something that you can touch. It can warm a room on a cold winter's night, or it can burn down the house. It's all how you're working with the energy. The modality, mutable, adaptable, changeable, go with the flow. So you're great at multitasking, but can feel a bit scattered with so much going on at once. It's ruled by Jupiter, which is the god of thunder, lord of justice, the planet of luck and expansion, and symbolized by the archer, which is that freedom loving individual, Katniss Everdeen, Robin Hood. So you're somebody who identifies with your beliefs, with your spirituality, your connection to God or a higher power, whatever higher power you believe in. You have a very clear sense of what is right and what is wrong. And you have an urge or a desire to be free so that you can express your philosophical views to those around you.
Hence the podcast, right?
Yes, exactly.
Why I love it so much.
Yes,
Huh.
that's it. And then when you look at the sign that was rising along the horizon, that's Pisces. The sign that was rising along the horizon when you were born was Pisces. That's the filter for everything inside the circle. Everything inside the circle filters through your rising sign. It's it's your face, your body, your personality. It's what you show to people you don't know in situations where you're uncomfortable, places where you're unfamiliar. If you ever feel threatened, what you're showing is Pisces. Pisces is mutable, like Sagittarius, because when the sun is in Pisces, it's the end of winter. It's water, though. Water is more introverted than extroverted because water is something where you are initiating the touch more so than water is initiating the touch with you. Water can nourish you by drinking it, or it can drown you. It's all how you're working with the energy. The planetary rulers of Pisces are Jupiter, like Sagittarius, and Neptune. Neptune is the god of fresh water in the sea, the planet of illusion, deception, compassion, and intuition. The symbol for Pisces is the fish. The fish are those very intuitive creatures that know whether to be swimming upstream, downstream, shallow water, deep water, fresh water, salt water. They're feeling what's in the water and they're moving based upon what they feel in the water. Well, the body part of Pisces is the feet. And the feet carry the weight of the entire body. Pisces is the final sign. It carries the weight of the 11 previous signs. So that means when you're around people you don't know, or in situations where you're uncomfortable, places where you're unfamiliar, if you ever feel threatened, you're very intuitive. You're very compassionate, very empathetic. But it can be a lot to carry the weight of all that you're feeling from those around you, just like it can be a lot to be on your feet all day. So you may feel an urge to escape. And we all know the phrase, drink like a fish. So Pisces rules drugs and alcohol, but also Netflix and chill, binge watching, doom scrolling. Music is maybe the healthiest form of escapism, but you have a very ethereal quality to your personality, Ashley. It's like when I look at you and I'm just like staring at your face, I feel like I can get lost in a dream. You should, yeah, yeah. It's like you have this like ethereal look, like it's almost alien like.
Huh.
I just feel your depth. You have a lot of depth just in the way that your face looks. Uh,
Huh.
and then the moon is in Libra. And this is also like a podcast. The podcast, like it's about magic, that's Pisces. Pisces is the ethereal realm. It's like it's the unexplainable. It's like you can explain what's going on in the ocean. We
Hmm.
don't know what's going on there. It's 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 a magical realm. It's a dream realm. So that's part of the podcast. But then the Libra moon, the moon, the planet of emotions, in the sign that's symbolized by the scales, representing balance, harmony, equanimity, fairness. You're having guests on your show. You're not just here talking by yourself. You're asking questions and you're engaging with other people. So you have a strong emotional urge to be in relationship with others, because relationship brings harmony and peace. And when things are out of balance, that's when you become emotional.
Oh, wow. Interesting that you think I'm an alien. I probably am an alien, right?
You probably are.
It's funny. Sometimes, it's like all the alien talk and the, AI and the coming of the UFOs and all the things where that's on the topic of a lot of my conversations. But the more I learn about it, the more I look at life and people that way too. It's so funny.
We're already here.
Yeah,
It's like the alien. When are they going to tell? Like, we're here.
right. Totally.
Yes. It's also interesting. You live by the ocean. You live in San Diego. Do you have a connection to water?
Yes.
That's the Pisces rising, because Pisces rules the oceans. It's a
Huh.
water sign.
Yeah, I always have to be by the water. It's so funny. Like I couldn't live somewhere. I grew up in Seattle and it's like after that, I moved to Montana for a little bit by a big lake, but it's still that satisfied me a little bit, but I know that I could never be somewhere where there's no water.
Yes, exactly. And same for me. I was born with the moon in Pisces. So I have that alien quality too. But also, I have always lived by water. Even when I grew up in Central California, which is landlocked, but there was a creek that was right behind my house that every day I could go down into the creek, and there are lakes and rivers around as well. But there is a creek right in my backyard. And, once I went to college in Santa Barbara, I was by the ocean and I've lived in LA ever since. So I always knew, I was like, I have to be by water.
Yeah, for
I have
sure.
to be by water.
When
Yeah.
the people need to be by mountains, what is that planet?
That's well, that a sign.
A
That's
sign.
what we're looking at. Capricorn.
Okay.
Capricorn, because Capricorn is symbolized by the goat. And the goat is that creature that starts in the valley but looks up and says, that's where I belong, at the top of
Ah,
that mountain. So Typically, I see people that are wanting to live by the mountains or live in the mountains. They have that Capricorn energy.
Huh, fascinating. Yeah,
Yeah.
I always think, it sounds, we love going skiing, but I can do that for a time and then I need to be back to the ocean, you
Mhm.
know. But I
Yeah.
mean, I crave that moment too. I crave that mountain energy.
Yes.
And then it's like, but that's enough. And then I feel better. But I
Totally.
never knew it was like that was what it was related to.
Absolutely. Well, you were also born, so you crave the mountain energy. That that shows up in your charts a couple of different ways. Your Mercury, the planet of the mind, is in the 10th house, and the 10th house is associated with the 10th sign, which is Capricorn. Your
Oh,
sun is within 2 degrees of your midheaven, which is the beginning of the 10th house, which is ruled by Capricorn. And Saturn, the planetary ruler of Capricorn, is in your first house, the house of personality. This is why the mountains are also important to you, but secondary when it comes to water.
gosh, isn't that? Think of what you know. Oh gosh,
Yeah.
Scott, I've had so much fun. More fun than I could even tell you. It was just so uh, confirming, like I said, probably at the beginning of everything, and just knowing that, even just now, you explaining my everything about me, knowing how powerful astrology is to
Mm.
know about yourself, like how you just went crazy about it when you first figured out, wow, I can go to the restaurant and be a waiter and learn about all these people and understand why I like that person or what makes them a mirror of me, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's it. And so it's my purpose in doing this is to help you understand who you are so you can accept who you are. And once you accept who you are, then you can appreciate yourself. And once you're appreciating yourself, then you are on your way to doing the one thing that you're meant to do in this life, and that's to learn to love yourself.
Yes, that's it, Scott. That's it. I
Hmm.
had a call with these girls the other day, and I do a lot of things with the pageant world too, like coaching. And it's like, you just need to love yourself. That's pretty much it. Like, I'm trying to, get all these things about, comparing or, just be loving. And this is what, when you realize you're such a unique, amazing miracle that you came into this world at this certain time and you chose the place and your parents and all the things that had to come into, your grandparents had to do, all these things that go way beyond what you
Yes.
could even fathom to believe what really got you to right here at this moment in birth,
Mm,
right?
exactly. It is a miracle. And the next time the planets and stars will be aligned in the way that they were aligned when you were born is over 25,000 years from that date, time, and place. So, that's just another example of how you are a miracle. But like you said, like your grandparents had to do this and your parents and all these different factors that come into it happening the way that it happened. It's and in that pageant world where it's a competition over beauty and knowledge and that sort of stuff, it can be very, I imagine, very comparative, but it's
Right,
important for every individual to recognize that that's in the pageant that you are uniquely special.
right.
And just being here is special and unique. And it's not about that person being better than you or anything like that. Because it's all subjective anyway. You
Exactly. Oh, that's for sure.
There's some
uh,
judges saying that this is
yeah.
the person, but it doesn't mean that you're any less than anyone else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a fun journey, and I think the girls, when they're 8, I watched it for the last 10 years, and they've grown so much. They've been able to get to that place of understanding, like, this is just my journey. I'm learning. I look back, and you lose more than you win, and it's about the learning. It's about what did I get from that? And it's like,
That's it.
it's with sports, all the things, these, raising children and watching them and watching what lights them up. But gosh, to have what about your children when they're born and see what their charts and understanding their codes and Wow. Just think if everyone had that when their children were born.
Yes, and that's something that I, want to continue in my work to do is I would love for this to be something that could be in the schools where, kids could learn about themselves in a positive light and recognize how special and unique they are. And I love that you bring up learning as like the key. Like, what did you learn from this? Because there's a real simplicity to the language of astrology. Like when you look at the planetary symbols, they're all based on three root symbols. One is a circle, the other one's a cross, and then the third one is a crescent. And they're quite simply telling you who you are, where you are, and what you're here to do. The circle of spirit represents your eternal soul. No beginning, no end. That's who you are. You're an eternal soul living in a physical body. The cross represents the four elements of matter: fire, earth, air, water. That's where you are. You're living in the world of matter. And the crescent represents giving, receiving, teaching, learning. That's what you're here to do. You're here to give, you're here to receive, you're here to teach, and you're here to learn.
I love that. Scott, tell everybody where how to find you, your book, your podcast, your YouTube channel, all the things.
Yeah,
Or
so
what's lighting you up besides having two babies in the
uh,
next
yeah, well, if you want to connect with me, it's theweeklytransit.com. That's the website. All the links are through there. You can find the podcast, The Weekly Transit, on wherever you listen to podcasts: YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and any other podcast platform where you may be listening. And the book, The Basics of Astrology, is on Amazon. But yeah, I'm excited to be a dad and excited to meet these babies and to for this next phase of my life. I really feel fortunate and blessed, and excited to continue to be doing the work that I'm doing, and in helping everyone who comes into contact me understand contact come into contact with me, have a better understanding of who they are so that they can love and appreciate themselves more.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're
Loved it, loved
welcome.
it, loved
You're
it.
welcome.